I love this book. I really do. And this whole video is just my attempt to convince you that you should read it. I read Mike's first edition of this book on my Kindle and really enjoyed it, and then had a chance to interview Mike, which you can find that interview on my YouTube channel. And since I enjoyed that first edition so much, I was very excited to hear that he was doing a second revised edition of the book. And let me be very clear up front, Mike Duran is on our team. He is a brother in the Lord. He's not writing from some cynical deconstructionist perspective. This is a guy who cares deeply about the faith. And furthermore, it's a well thought out book. This is intellectually rigorous. It is not haphazard. It is not shallow in its reasoning. Mike has interfaced with the critics and thought through the criticisms honestly and responded, I think, very well. Now, I don't want to steal Mike's thunder and just go blow by blow through the whole book. That's not my intent for this video, but rather just to give you a little bit of a sense for the book, maybe whet your appetite for purchasing, which, by the way, I'm not sponsored. I'm not making any money off this. I just really like the book, so I want more people to read it. In the first chapter, Mike is looking at biblical themes in horror, and this includes modern filmmaking, modern stories, as well as old stories, classic tales of horror. And not even just stories, but he actually goes into some art, paintings that have very horrific elements to them. Then in chapter 2, Mike is talking about horror themes in the Bible. And honestly, I think this is probably the biggest blind spot when it comes to Western evangelical Christians. We have been raised on crap Bible stories. If you're old enough, then you're thinking Precious Moments. And if you're a little bit younger, you're thinking VeggieTales. But in both cases, these are images that recreate the biblical stories in ways that are just very, well, shall we say, all the sharp edges are rounded off. And that is a problem because it isn't true. It isn't actually representing what Scripture is. And that segues perfectly into chapter 3, where he talks about evangelical culture and the horror genre. Christians in our modern Western world have a very odd perspective on horror, and it seems to be coming more from a cultural aesthetic than from any sort of historical, theologically logical basis. It's anti-horror, but it's not coming necessarily from a well-thought-out application of Scripture. Mike lays out an argument for Christian horror and lays some ground rules for what Christians should and can do with horror. And after that, he gives some responses to common objections to Christian horror. And then there's a whole slew of appendix on a couple particular subjects. So that's Mike Duran's book, Christian Horror, on the compatibility of a biblical worldview and the horror genre. The second edition is out. You can get it on Amazon in a digital or physical edition, and I would highly encourage you do just that.